All right. Welcome everyone to today's show. Thank you all for being here. It's the BirdDog Live Show, live session. You can see it right there in my virtual background. Thank you all for being here. And as always, if you're just joining us, I just saw the viewer count jump by like double. Everyone, welcome to the show. My name is Anthony Burokas here for BirdDog Live Sessions. Take the cool shirt. I think they're giving these away at NAB. We'll go see. We'll find out from, oh no, he's shaking his head no. We have a special guest here today. As always, we love to hear where everybody is watching from, because the magic of is streaming today is that anything can be viewable anywhere. You could be watching this on Facebook or YouTube. You could be anywhere in the world. And including that, we've got Yanis Vavalikodis from, I don't recognize the flag, Norway maybe? Not sure. You can chime in the comments and let me know. Because the comments are live. This is a live show between you and us, and it's a question and answer show. So be sure, if you have BirdDog questions, start throwing them into the comments, because we're going to get to your questions. We're going to try anyway. Arizona is here for Bruce. And let's see, we've got Randy Robinson Films. Thanks for joining us. I like the R and the R on the logo there. In Austin, Texas. And Lars Kemper in Dalfsen, the Netherlands. We also have the some senseless guy in Auburn Hills, Michigan. Sorry, you handed that one to me. Manuel is in Austria. No kangaroos here. Not Australia, but Austria. Greece. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Thank you. Greece. And Randy Robinson is, oh, thank you. Randy's jumping in also to let me know it's Greece. Oliver Tracy from Guernsey. And we have one more in Oslo, Norway. So if you're just joining us, I'd love to hear where everybody's watching. A big EU contingent here today. So thank you all for being here. And then, as always, we always love to know if you've got some BirdDog gear. What kind of gear do you already have? Or what are you looking to get? And speaking of what are you looking to get, I should mention right now that if I get rid of this chat, there's not like an easy button to do that. We are giving away 1 year BirdDog Cloud subscription. So if you are interested in BirdDog Cloud, if you're curious what it might do for you, this is not a 14-day trial. This is not a 30-day trial. This is a 1 year subscription. And what it means is you're able to like try it now and use it for a year. You're able to like win now, but you're really busy now. You don't have time to test this stuff, but start testing it in a little while and then see how well it works for you. No cost to you. You have to scan this QR code here. Or, oh wow, that logo doesn't have the BD Live URL, but you know what? Because I know that URL works, I'm actually just going to scan it with my own phone, and bit.ly and /BD entry. So BirdDog entry is the term, and that should be right across the bottom of this computer here, but for some reason it's not. Today has been a whole day of interesting streaming incidents, so I don't know why that would have changed. Interesting. But let's see if I can do that. There it is. For whatever reason, this graphic didn't update, but there it is. Now it's entry. bit.ly /BD entry. So if you don't have a second device to just scan this, you can just go to your computer and type in bit.ly /BirdDog entry. And that way you can enter to win. And I have the form right over here. I'm looking at it. If you have any trouble with it, put it in the comments and I can try and debug it. But I'm looking at the live entry form right here. So as you enter, I can see people entering, and I've got one entry already. So thank you very much for that. But like I said, this is a big deal. This cloud subscription, it allows you to be able to connect different locations, whether they be in the same office, the same city, the same country, or different countries, and use your gear back and forth as if it was local. So it's a very, very powerful tool. And I think you're going to be very impressed with what BirdDog Cloud can enable for you. Let us continue along the way. What if I do this? Yep, there we go. And now, in the news, I don't know if anybody here is going to NAB, but NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters Convention in Las Vegas, Nevada, is coming up. It's right around the corner. Unfortunately, I won't be there this week. So last year I was giving out stickers and stuff like that, and the BirdDog team is all there. But NAB is right around the corner. There's new firmware for the Maki. I say Makai. Dan told me it's Maki. It looks like this. This camera is the Maki Ultra and the X1s. And there's an exclusive NDI webinar hosted by MMG. That's also, if you may have seen the announcements going around, that's coming up live on March 27th. So also this week. And the Max, which is for conference rooms and things like that. It's like the X1, but slimmed down without the Wi-Fi and stuff like that. And the keyboard, KBD, are now shipping. So when we did the show about the keyboard, everybody was like, win, 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 win. It's now shipping. So thank you for everyone for waiting for us, for waiting for that. And we're going to continue along with this and get right to our guest. We're going to be talking about the evolution of live production, and Christian Frink, the product manager from BirdDog, is here with me today. So I thank him for joining me. I'm going to, let's see, I come over here, I click this, and then I rearrange this because this is just a wonky layout. There we go. So thank you for joining me. Where are you located?
I'm in Auburn Hills, Michigan. So like I work out of the support office in Michigan. So
Okay, cool. So you're U.S. time zone.
yep.
Sometimes, and it's interesting because BirdDog is spread around the world. I've had Dan and everybody from Australia, crack of dawn in the morning over there, 3 o'clock in the afternoon for me over here. But
Yeah.
that's the magic of the evolution of live production is that we can tie all these things together, and I think that's one of the key things. You know, for instance, the line between broadcast and what we used to call pro or industrial AV is kind of disappearing because everything is video now. Whether it's sports, corporate events, education, meetings, it's the same production tools and workflows are being used across different industries.
Yeah.
And what used to be this divide between, oh, it's broadcast quality or it's only AV, I don't think that really exists anymore. What do you think?
No, I think really both industries are kind of looking over the fence at each other and seeing what they like on either side. And it's like the lines are blurring and be like, well, I can, if I'm pro AV and I look over at broadcast and be like, wow, I really want a different level of image quality. Maybe we do some more of that. And maybe broadcast wants to be a little bit more flexible in how they do things. And they look over at some pro AV installs and they're like, well, that's a little bit more flexible. Let me lean into that. And I think we're kind of blurring the property line a little bit.
Oh,
And I
absolutely.
think it's making both industries um, better and stronger and is allowing change to happen a lot faster.
There's a lot of flexibility, especially now that NDI, SRT, and any sort of IP video workflow. It makes it easier to incorporate different things from different places and make it accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. And I think we're only going to see it grow. Like the numbers that you have here are so true. And I think it's a small sample size. And I think we're only going to see a dramatic increase in remote production and the use of video in different industries. I think we're going to see it rise continually in education and the corporate environments as well, is the trends that we're really seeing because
Yes.
everything's video now. Like even and that's coming up through like generations. And we're getting into the people that are making decisions at companies now are people that grew up with a higher level of technology and have seen it advanced faster. And I think we're going to see that reflect in buying decisions and product decisions.
Absolutely, because like you said, everybody's watching reels, everybody's watching content repurposed and everything, and all of this content, even if it's just created on cell phones, it's basically, everybody's producing TV level content, whether it be live events or internal communications. We can see this happening worldwide.
Absolutely. And when there's so much more content, the demand for the higher level of quality rises as well, and people are seeking out better alternatives. And I think we've positioned ourselves really well to fit into that changing market.
I mean, just to talk about these stats a little bit, 85% of businesses using video for marketing or training and internal communications. I think that really speaks to the fact that they know that video has a better effect, whether you're training something or you just want to communicate new what's going on this spring in the company. Watching a short video has a better effect than a memo.
Absolutely. And like I've through different like stops I've had in my career and just watching like different levels of training videos where it's like gone from just little animated videos to now just being like remote live trainings, is they're so much more impactful when you're able to interact live, and the scope that you can have and the impact that you can larger being able to do that in a live virtual capacity rather than spending the time and resources to produce something ahead of time and share that isn't going to reach people on an individual level.
Well, and to that point, when you say live, produce things like live stream corporate events, as the stat says, grew by 70% in the past three
Yeah.
years, reaching larger audiences than in-person events because not everybody can make it at that exact day and time, whether they're stuck at home, whether they're sick, or location-wise. It also saves in terms of transportation costs. If you want to have a
Mhm.
marketing meeting, but you don't want to have to fly everybody from across the country or
Yeah.
around the world to a central location, doing a live stream from that event that other people can attend makes it more cost effective and still gives you that reach.
Yeah, we do that here at BirdDog because we have a third of our company here, US based. We have a bunch of colleagues in Europe, and then we have, everybody down in Australia. And it's really difficult to get a time zone that or a time that works for everybody across the world. Somebody's going to be at a rough time. So being able to do a live production of it, but also being able to record that production for people to come back and watch it later, is you're able to meet everybody where they're at. So that way you're accessing your full population.
And schools and universities are also investing in broadcast quality production tools for learning, hybrid classrooms, and even live event streaming for like sports.
Yeah, it's I'm starting to see more and more like use cases, and not even use cases. It's I forgot the word, but yeah, it's use cases where people are doing
Yeah,
different productions in more flexible environments, whether it's you're producing a live sports event over Wi-Fi because you don't have the same level of infrastructure where that tennis match is, or you want different angles, or you have a really small crew and you want a light setup and be able to tear down to go do something else afterwards.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
And I think the products that we're seeing emerge in the market are adapting to these trends.
So, and we don't want to necessarily say traditional broadcast workflows are declining, but the fixed, like point to point SDI or HDMI, those control rooms and satellite uplinks are pretty much being replaced by software driven production workflows. Content creators and event producers, they like the scalability, the mobility, the cost efficiency that, if you have to run a SDI cable between this and that, it's a lot harder because then you need the switch, the router, the distribution amplifiers. Whereas if it's wireless and IP or even cloud based video, those workflows are changing how and where what kind of production can happen.
Yeah, and I think IP-based workflows are are sneaking in small ways too, where even if your workflow isn't entirely, IP or NDI based, or um, a lot of people are bringing it in some ways, whether you're just bringing in a confidence monitor over NDI, but everything else you have is SDI, or whether you're encoding your camera to NDI from SDI. So you're touching a little bit of both instead of just having native NDI from your camera. It's doing a little bit of everything. And I really think that this number feels right to me, that 78% of people are going to transition by next year. Because once you get your foot in the door, it's really easy to transition the rest of your workflow over to a more IP based system.
And even if they don't transition everything, I mean, there's still a lot of baseband,
Yeah.
legacy cable-based workflows, and this will continue, especially for certain verticals. Like if you're a church, you're not going to rerun all your cabling and things like that. And
No.
that's the reason why, a lot of today's cameras, they're NDI capable, but they still have SDI, they still have HDMI. They're prepared for both worlds.
Yeah, trying to, you know, while we're in NDI, like for us, like even though we position ourselves as NDI first for a lot of our cameras, having the HDMI and having the SDI allows you to kind of future proof yourself a little bit. Because if you just have an SDI workflow right now and you're looking to grow in the future, you can get an X5 that has 12G SDI output, but when you're ready to move into an NDI HX3, then all of a sudden you have a camera and a decoder in one device.
And there's nothing saying you can't use both too. You can have it
Correct.
via
Yeah.
SDI and then say, oh, it would be great if I could also have that feed somewhere else. And then it becomes an add-on, an additional capability that doesn't replace what you're doing, but adds to it.
It does. It really gives you a lot of options to decide how you want to design your workflow to really meet different users where they're at and what they want their workflows to look like.
I mean, this slide talks about 78% of broadcasters or IP-based production will be their standard workflow by 2026. I know
That's pretty quick.
a lot of places. Well, NDI has been around for 15 years, or no, 10
Yeah.
years now. So it's taken a while to get to this point, but I think we're reaching the turning point. The global SD market is shrinking at 3%, while IP-based workflows are growing. So companies and installers, I think, are seeing the advantages of not having to run a dedicated wire between point A and point B.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'm seeing more cases of remote based uh, technicians on site. So instead of
Mhm.
just having a dedicated technician on site, you can have somebody remote that, whether you're using something like BirdDog Cloud or something else, to be able to manage whether it's your production directly or to configure your entire workflow, to set up your QSys, to set up your BirdDog cameras,
Uh-huh.
to route things ahead of time, or to run your vMix production. You can do all of that remotely now instead of having people on site. And there's a lot of advantages to that from a human level and from a business perspective as well.
And remote gives me an opportunity to click this button and tell everybody you can enter to win BirdDog Cloud right here. You can use a QR code or type in bit.ly BirdDog entry. Fill out the form entry. I've got entries already in. Pedro was the last person to enter, so just reading the one. I'm not going to read everybody's name. This is available to everyone, and this allows you to do, like you were saying, that remote administration to like dial in and control cameras. You don't have to have a
Yep.
PTZ operator on location with BirdDog Cloud. You could actually have a PTZ operator that you didn't have to fly in, but they're still operating the cameras. And that way, that can save in staffing and then the size of the truck. The truck
Yeah.
doesn't have to hold 15 people in the truck, your graphics operator can be working in the cloud. Your, remote camera operator can be, not there in the room as well. And, you know, and this is not technically a new thing. You go back to, even before the internet per se, there would be a Super Bowl production at the stadium, but then it would be satellite over to New York where they're going to put in the commercials and other things as well. So not everything is happening on location. It's just that it's so much easier now, right?
And faster.
Oh yeah, yeah. You don't have to wait for the 2-second bounce.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like your video's going to space and back.
Right, right, right. And that is really the whole point, is the rise of IP, wireless cloud-based workflows. I mean, Wi-Fi enabled cameras make it easy that even in the same room, you could, quickly deploy something as part of your production and not have to worry about, oh, I got to get power to it. I got to like run an SDI cable. Somebody's got to be a cable runner and stuff like that. And cloud workflows allow teams to collaborate remotely without having to be in the room. It reduces setup time, it reduces complexity, and it makes high-end production more mobile and accessible.
It does. And it's not even, it goes beyond, I think, even the the workflow setup because it can really give you different shots. I think the X4 is a great example of this. And the fact that it has a high level of Wi-Fi capability and having the battery so you can be completely wireless. Just a couple weeks ago, I was messing around with the guys in the office, and we were like recreating our own Blair Witch trial, like reenactment, where I was like walking around the office with the X4, and they were watching it on one of our computers just through Studio Monitor, and the latency was absolutely incredible. Where I'm just walking around all over, and
Yeah,
it doesn't look like I'm on Wi-Fi. I never would have guessed that it was a battery operated Wi-Fi camera because it looked like I was just plugged in with HDMI and it was super long and I'm getting ready to trip on the cable. But nope, it's a completely wireless option, and it's really showing us that the future is now.
absolutely. Now, like you're saying, the quality still matters.
Mhm.
You may be wireless, but now with HX3, the quality still matters. But it even as the workflows get simpler, the production is becoming more flexible, and the wireless doesn't mean that the quality is going to suffer, even though the audiences expect broadcast quality, even for amateur productions or corporate productions or church productions. They're expecting broadcast quality video.
Yeah, like you were talking about earlier, when people are just watching these Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, or TikToks, whatever. Like the production level that's going into even like social media posts is really high level, and that's just raising the floor for everyone's production. So the consumer standard for what is being observed is so much higher, and I think the industry and us included is really raising the bar to what we can do. And I think NDI HX3 is a huge part of that, where you can get a really light bandwidth, but have a really high level performance out of the camera, where
Right.
you're getting a high level of video quality, but it's light on your network. It's really flexible. It's easy to set up, but you would never guess that it's that lightweight to install.
And it's amazing because, you know, I think the key takeaways are that the broadcast and AV are merging everything as video, whether it be for live events or corporate use. The SDI workflows are not necessarily fading, but they're being augmented with and added to. And in some cases, the new installations are just foregoing traditional baseband altogether and just going, IP. NDI, SRT, and hybrid workflows, they have flexibility, scalability, and the cost savings, like you said, with crewing.
Mhm.
And like you were just saying, wireless video eliminates the location restrictions. I don't have to stick it here because that's where the power plug is and the Ethernet jack is to the wall, or an SDI jack. I can kind of just, hey, here's a camera, run the NDI app and like wander around and give me some audience
Yeah.
shots.
You can get creative, and it gives you a lot of options from a creative perspective.
Now, as we're saying, video is no longer just for broadcasters. It's
Yeah,
everywhere. And BirdDog has been on the NDI train since its inception, right? Since, I mean, the
absolutely.
first camera was NDI, full NDI. And that has been, I hazard to say that BirdDog has been one of the driving companies of NDI, because it's always been all in on NDI from the beginning. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't know. Well, I don't know. But to see a company sit there and say, nope, everything, it's all NDI. Yes, yes, these have regular ports on the back, but at the
Yeah,
same time, everything, and it's not an optional extra. That's the other key thing. There's a lot of
nope,
companies out there that'll say, hey, you can pay for this camera, but then if you want to activate NDI, that's an additional fee. Whereas every
yeah,
BirdDog camera comes with, it's fully ready to go. There's nothing optional to activate on it.
correct. Yeah, and as long as you are streaming to network, that NDI feed is always going to be there. And on a lot of our cameras, like we've introduced a secondary encoder option. So like you can have the NDI and you can have SRT or RTSP in addition to having that NDI feed. So you
Hmm.
don't even have to put your foot in one IP bucket. You can have the best of both worlds a little bit.
Now, we should, of course, mention, since it's the BirdDog show, that BirdDog is going to be at NAB show.
We will.
And everything is going to be available. If you're in the industry, this is a great place to come. I mean, there's ISE in Europe. There's shows around the world, so there's always something to get to. And I think BirdDog is pretty much at every show, and or has a presence at every show, so you can get hands on with these tools. You can try them out. You could use the new keyboard and see how it feels, how it works for you. Check out the return video in it and everything. So if you don't already have tickets, there's a little use code NS965. Is that a B or an 8? I think it's a B.
I think it's an 8.
So use that, and that will get you an exhibits pass. There's also seminars and lectures and workshops and things like that. Those are additional costs. I'm just, for those who haven't been to NAB and don't already know, there's a lot going on. It's a massive, multiple halls, multiple buildings, and there's a lot going on. So you can come to the exhibits with that and check out everything in the BirdDog booth.
And I'll be there this year too.
Awesome. There's
Yeah.
also the bundles that are going on right now. So you get the X1 bundle, which you've got that new case that Dan has talked about several times. The X1 Ultra bundle, and then of course the X4 bundle comes with the free keyboard, and the X5 Ultra combo also comes with the free keyboard. So if you haven't already been deployed, this is not to say the cameras work with existing keyboards. They're not limited to working with just the new keyboard. But if you don't already have a keyboard, this is a very good deal to get into. Now, I also want to mention that I'm going to bring that QR code up again. We've got a couple entries in. If you are interested in registering to win a 1-year BirdDog Cloud subscription, doesn't cost you anything to enter. There's an online form. You fill out the form, make sure you put your email address in there correctly, and then put it in there again just to make sure we get it right. Because what we're going to do is activate this. There's nothing that needs to be shipped, so this is available around the world. And it works around the world. So you can either type in bit.ly/BD entry or scan the QR code with your phone and fill out the form. And I've got some entries in already, so I'm going to put that up there. And I want to continue with this and got a couple Q&A. This is a live show, so everyone who's watching you now have the opportunity to put questions into the comment section that we're going to try to answer live. We've got a couple questions that were coming in from the customer service department. One is, does the new keyboard do full NDI, or is it limited to like HX3?
So the KBD, so if you have a camera with full NDI, you'll have full NDI PTZ control of the on the KBD. So if you have a P200, for instance, or a P4K, and you want to control it with the KBD, that is no problem. What the KBD does do a little bit differently is the live preview of the cameras on the screen, on the display, or the multi-view. That only works with NDI-HX or RTSP. So if you have a 1080p P series or a P200 or a P120, that has our Silicon 2 in it, where you can activate the secondary encoder to have NDI-HX. And once you activate that, you can get the preview on the KBD as well. Or you could set it up to do it with RTSP. So a little bit of a loaded question, but
I think that's a key. I think that's a thing, something a lot of people may not know about, though. I mean, you kind of mentioned it in passing, but these original BirdDog cameras, which came out as full NDI, that's all they were, full NDI cameras, they've had a Silicon 2 update that gives them the ability to do HX encoding. There's like nothing you have to add differently. You don't have to pay for an option, but they're now capable of something they weren't capable of when they shipped.
it's pretty incredible, honestly.
So, and that's how, because, somebody might be saying, well, I got a P200, but it's a full NDI, so it's not going to work. Well, actually,
It does.
it does.
It does. And the control is better. We have a lot of people that are asking like how the control on the KBD compares to our previous keyboard, and I'd say it's a significant improvement. I've been really happy with it, and all of the feedback I've gotten so far is really, really encouraging, and I think people are going to like it a lot. And it's already in the hands of distributors, and I'm really excited for people to start, getting it in the wild.
And I think, Dan has, mentioned a couple times on the show that that's part of BirdDog 2.0. People have always said, don't announce something and then not ship it for 3 months, because they're making purchasing decisions, they're making design decisions, they're making integration decisions, and they want to know when they hear about something and they make a decision, they want to know that it's coming. It's like it's there.
Yeah.
And so Dan was like, we're not going to mention the keyboard, we're not going to talk about the keyboard until we know it's in the shipping channel. And that's one of the things, is that the keyboard is now shipping, and that way people can actually make these decisions knowing that it's in the chain already, and you're not going to have to wait 6 months or things like that.
Yep. And we already have a firmware out on the website that is above and beyond what the units are shipping with. So we're already building on what's out there.
All right, the next Q&A comes in. Can I use the NDI decoder in the cameras at the same time as I'm getting an NDI feed from them?
Yes. So if you have an X5, an X1, an X1 Ultra, and you're using the encoded feed from the camera itself, you can absolutely configure that decoder to decode that camera or something else entirely. It's just important to note that is just an NDI-HX decoder. It won't decode full NDI or high
Right.
bandwidth NDI.
Also, it's key that it does not apply to every single camera.
Correct.
It's not on the Silicon 2 update for the original series, right?
Correct.
And I think I learned last week when Dan was on, it doesn't apply to the Mach-E as well.
Correct. The Mach-E does not have a built-in decoder.
And so it's something to be very, when you're looking at a particular camera to integrate, let's just say for a prompter or something like that, a studio setup, make sure that you're selecting a camera and double check that is one of the models that does have the return feed. but you can send it HX, and with that single cable, you're getting camera, camera control, tally, and the return feed and power, all on that one wire. So don't break that one wire. Let's see. The next one is the AI tracking the same in all the cameras?
Not entirely. So different cameras are going to have different um, feature sets right now, and they have different. They're better at different things. And so we just in the latest update that we have for the X1 and the X1 Ultra is it uh, really improved upon the user interface of the AI tracking,
Right.
getting it a lot closer to what our X4 is. And the X4, I think, is really leading the way for us with AI tracking and how dynamic it is. And in addition to just, tracking one individual, being able to set up different zones for tracking and having four zones on stage. So if you have, four different people that you're looking at, being able to kind of set areas up ahead of time for the camera to focus on, it makes it a lot more dynamic from a production standpoint. And we're looking at improving the AI tracking on all of the cameras. So I think next in line for an improvement is going to be the X5, and that should be coming in the next couple of months. And Max is pretty similar to X1 and X1 Ultra as far as its AI tracking goes as well, but they're not exactly the same, and they have some different use cases. And if you have a question about
Right.
it, when you're looking to purchase, like feel free to reach out to us at hello@birddog.tv, and we're happy, to talk through what the different use cases are for the different AI tracking systems and what might work best for your setup.
And the max being for corporate, I think Dan also pointed out to me that the max is also, it's a wider, slightly wider field of view,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have the return video, because in a corporate situation that's something that you wouldn't need.
Yeah, and I think it's a 90-degree field of view. It's really impressive. It's really like even just knowing like the hard spec for it when I first powered it on my desk, I was like, I can see the entire room right now. It's really impressive um, from just its lens perspective. I think the image is really really clean on it, but I think an understated feature on it, especially for those corporate rooms, is privacy mode. So you can turn on privacy mode, so where if you're not pulling a UVC feed or an NDI feed, the camera head will tilt down and go away. So it's not looking at anything. So if you're concerned about, eyes being on that room, when a feed's not being pulled, that the camera is in its privacy mode.
Yeah, and I think in today's day, you know, in today's world, being able to look over and see the camera pointed down, okay, it's off.
Yeah,
It's just a very easy visual way to know that it's not looking into the room, or overlooking you, and that's
yeah,
and in that type of use case it makes sense. That's not something you would need, let's just say, in a church. I need to make sure that we're not broadcasting. It's not something you
yeah.
need. So we're going to continue along with a couple of questions that are coming in on the live show. Again, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, this is a live show. Well, if you're watching it now on Wednesday, if you're watching it on Thursday, it's not a live show. Also, while we are live, be sure to click on, use the QR code to enter to win a 1-year BirdDog Cloud subscription. It's available around the world. You would just create an account, and then your account, your email would then be activated for an entire year for the BirdDog Cloud. So you can enter via bit.ly BirdDog entry or via the QR code. And let me come over here to the questions. Randy asks, can you talk a little bit more about the workflow for the wireless video feed for the X4?
Yeah, I can touch on it a little bit. So the the X4 is going to use Wi-Fi 6, like MIMO Wi-Fi. So you are going to want to have a network switch available to be able to initially connect the X4 to Wi-Fi. And then once you're connected to Wi-Fi with that initial connection, you can disconnect from your hardline connection, and then you're free to roam however you please. So as long as you have a router that you're able to connect to, whether it's connected to internet or not, that's your prerogative for your workflow. So if you just have a wireless router that you're able to broadcast that Wi-Fi signal, a switch that you're able to hardline configure the X4 to that network, and then you're free to configure that however you desire. So if you have a laptop then that you can connect to that same network, you can pull in those NDI feeds just as you could if they were hardwired. So it really behaves the same as the hardwired, just over Wi-Fi.
And as someone who has done Wi-Fi for years, I still have a couple of the original NewTek Sparks with the blue antennas.
Yeah.
If maybe that's dating me a little bit. The key thing, if you're going to be doing NDI over Wi-Fi, is first your Wi-Fi has to be a very good and fast Wi-Fi. This is not get the cheapest consumer router. This is get a good router, whether it be a professional or an industrial solution, or even a gaming system. Republica gamers have, their system is designed to be able to move a gigabit of data even wirelessly, and you need the low latency. You need the backplane has to be able to move data. Even if you are using HX, you still need it to be able to process that data fast and get it from point A to point B. So, I've tried Eero or EERO, and they don't like wireless video at all. I mean, it's good for consuming data, but when I've tried to move NDI back and forth across it, or the Google Wi-Fi pucks and things like that, that has not been very successful for me. So, we can say Wi-Fi is good when it's set up well.
Yeah. Like I'm using it on Netgear access points, and
Yeah.
and it works really well on those. But if you have an older, you know, router from your house that's laying around, it might not be the best for the video production.
And also, as standard practice is, whatever you're using for video, make sure video is the only thing on it. It's a separate network on a separate channel. So if you are in a church or a corporate office or things like that, and you've got public Wi-Fi, don't just put this on the public Wi-Fi. Don't just put it on the same Wi-Fi. Everybody who comes in, 600 people come into the church and they're all updating their Facebook and things like that, and they're on the same network as the cameras. That's not a good idea. It needs to be separate.
Yeah.
So again, entry, I'm going to bring that off the screen for a moment as we bring on the next question. I got a couple good questions coming in. Is absolute PTZ NDI working? What about getting current PTZ position from BirdDog cameras? I think that's an engineering question about getting data back from them.
Yeah, I think that's about getting
Absolute PTZ.
absolute position for PTZ locations. I know we're still working on that with a lot of the cams, and I don't have a concrete timeline on that right now, but I know we're working on it.
Okay. Thank you for the question. As always, we appreciate, the tough questions. And if we don't have the answer, we're going to say we don't have the answer. I just want to circle back on something you had mentioned.
Yeah.
When you have the camera and you are going to go Wi-Fi, this one does not have a Wi-Fi antenna, but I'm just holding it up as an example. When you're going to go Wi-Fi with a camera, you can't communicate with it wirelessly until you're on the same network. So you have to get it on the network via a wire to be able to get to the control panel to tell it what the wireless network is. So I think
Correct.
you mentioned that. You actually did describe that, but I just want to make sure people understand that that's the only way to communicate with it. Whereas there are some consumer gear that uses Bluetooth LE, and the app will talk to it via Bluetooth, and that's how you can, security cameras, security cameras work that way. It's you can tell the camera in a different way, But with the BirdDog cameras, you literally have to plug it into the network so that you can see the control panel, so that you can say, all right, look for the wireless network, use this one, this is the password. And then once you have that in the camera, you'll see it on the
Yep.
e-ink display. And once you have it there, then you can say, okay, now I'm going to unplug the cable and I can deploy it somewhere.
And honestly, you could even just bypass a switch and just plug the camera directly into to your computer and access it at its fallback IP and be able to configure it that way as a workaround as well.
This is a good question because it kind of circles back to the previous cameras, because BirdDog has the waterproof camera, the waterproof outdoor camera. What's the rain ratings on the X series? I'm live streaming outdoors.
All of the X series right now is considered just to be indoor cameras. Outdoor is, you know, do it your own risk, essentially. We have people that do outdoor productions, but they're not designed to be in the elements in any way.
Yeah, the ports are
Um,
just
yeah,
open.
I know there's different products out in the market that I've seen that have different enclosures for PTZ cams and where they've put cameras in enclosures, whether they're heated or cooled or just to keep them out of the rain, like you mentioned. So there's definitely options that I've seen people use from the market to be able to use our cameras outdoors, but they're not natively, rain resistant or anything like that.
Randy, wireless video. So he actually has. So you need internet, not just a closed network. I hope that's the right term. No, not at
No,
all. No, and
Wi-Fi does not equal internet.
right.
So you can have Wi-Fi with an internet connection, and you can have a Wi-Fi without internet connection. And our Wi-Fi based cameras will work with either of those configurations.
Right. Because if you take a like a Google Puck, just as an example, and if you took a Google Puck and you plugged in your wide area network or your internet connection from cable or wherever it's coming in from, then it's broadcasting the internet. But if you unplug that, your local area network, everything connected to each other through that wireless access point still exists. It's just whether it be on a wire talking through a switch or wireless talking around, that all still works. And that actually has saved my bacon one time in that I know like a Netgear makes a hotspot that is both the cellular access and your Wi-Fi. But I was doing an outside event and I separated that, and I had a separate Wi-Fi access point downstream from the Netgear router. Well, the Netgear router overheated and shut down. But all my devices were still connected. I could still control the cameras and see the video. I just lost the send to the YouTube channel until I
Mhm.
took the Netgear and I put it in the shade,
Yeah,
because the sun beating down on it in Texas, which is where I am, just made
yeah.
it overheat, and it was just too hot, and it just shut down. But keeping
And
them separate enabled my Wi-Fi to keep going, whereas if I was using the Wi-Fi and the Netgear, it all would have died.
yeah.
Oh, this is a good question. Are the X's happy to work upside down all day?
Yeah, we have multiple clients that are using any one of the X series cameras that are mounted upside down.
I have to say they look good.
We have mounts that are designed to have the camera mounted upside down, and in the camera settings you can flip or mirror the image however you need for those different installs. So that's definitely an accepted use case.
And I would say just make sure you're putting it on a rated mount. This is
Yeah.
how much does the X5 weigh?
Ooh, that's it.
You go
Like
look that
just
up
under
while I talk
7 pounds.
for a second.
Yeah.
So,
Really
and
good.
also note that there's a safety, there's two safety, clip attachment areas on the back of this thing. So if you're mounting it in a public area, I would definitely say, yes, you got your quarter 20 mount on the bottom and everything, but you would also take these loops and run a safety cable, which, I used to do theater lighting, and every single light, even though you've got this massive clamp on it, every single light would also have a safety cable going around it in case of a fatigue, somebody didn't, tighten it right or something like that. It's a backup because, the safety of the people below these heavy devices is important. So
Yeah.
these
That
things
X5
have
is
the,
a solid 5 pounds.
so okay, if I'm making this sound with 5 pounds on. Let's see what else. A couple more questions came in. Thanks for the latest firmware on the X1. It supports NDI 6.1, but will it also support NDI bridge for WAN connectivity, or is this feature different hardware and X1 series will not ever support it?
That's something that we're looking into still with our X series that we don't have yet. So I know NDI Bridge is a really cool thing that they brought in with this latest library update, but we have not implemented that in any of our updates yet. We're looking at it. It's really cool, and we're trying to see what the best use case for it is.
We got a clarification. The senseless guy says the
Yeah.
X5 Ultra weighs 3.7 kilograms.
Yeah, I think that's in its full package with the box and the accessories and all the good stuff.
Oh, the
I also
shipping
don't
weight.
speak kilograms.
Because you're in America like me. We
I
don't
am.
know our metric. And we apologize
No,
because I know
it
almost all the audience for today's show is in Europe.
yeah, it's our fault.
Randy Robinson Films. Last question. What's the heat threshold for the X4? Will it overheat in direct sunlight for 2 hours in 100-degree weather? Depends on whether there's
That's
a
a good
breeze.
question.
Also, direct sunlight. That makes a big difference, direct sunlight, because that means you're actually imparting heat onto the device as opposed to it's just ambient 100 degrees and, the air can still circulate through, because you can see that there's actually, this is a big opening on the side here. I mean, again,
Yeah.
this is an X5, not an X4, but that's an open grill there to allow for airflow.
Yeah, it's the X4's designed to operate up to like 40 degrees Celsius, which the internet tells me is 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Really when you start getting around that hot or hotter than that too, if you're running on battery, when you start to get in prolonged heat environments, that's when, you're going to have uh, a time difference with your battery usage where the battery's not going to be in its ideal performance where the chip inside the camera isn't going to be operating at a level. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing dropped frames at extended heat. So I think it's really tricky. I think it really comes down to what the weather is that day and how hot it is. If it's
And what another thing to consider is
cloudy.
you may say it's 100 degrees, that's a 100-degree day, but this is creating its own heat. And then if it's in direct sunlight, your ambient temperature could be 90 degrees, but this is going to be hotter because of the direct sunlight. And I know that
It
from
will.
being in Texas, there's a lot of cameras that overheat very quickly. And I used to use my GH4s a lot because they would just keep going. I would expect things to just shut down and die, but they were like pretty darn amazing. But if you look at these, you see how the top of this is flat? You could put, a piece of cardboard, or a cover on top to give it shade. As long as you can keep this thing in the shade, then your ambient temperature becomes the actual temperature. Whereas if you've got the sun beating down on this for hours, your ambient temperature isn't the temperature that the camera's experiencing, especially if you got a black
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Uh, do, do, do. I love the review on the keyboard. Pressing the shift key slowed the zoom and pan, which is two hands. Can that be switched to have a slow as default? Ooh, great question.
I actually have a really good answer for this one. So if you download the latest firmware we have on our website, I think it's version 6.1.556. That introduces a feature where you can change the functionality of the button on the joystick to be superfine control, where then you can toggle on and off that superfine speed control. which is just the same as holding the shift. So if you just press that joystick button, it'll be like you were holding the shift button until you toggle it off.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And probably because it's a more common user request feature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Perfectly timed question.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got Randy Scott chiming in. Thank you very much, you guys. This has been a very active group with questions. I like this. Hoping the events would be moved inside if that gets hot. It's good to know. Thank you both. Yes, I've done events outside. Like I said, that really hot event. And I was using cameras and I did the same thing. I built like a little microphone, use that little microphone shield, that little arm with the little pop filter on it.
Yeah.
And I just put it over top, with a piece of white cardboard so that the air could still move past it. And do the cooling it needed to do, but it wasn't being beaten down in the hot Texas sun because it was like a June wedding, and they decided to do it outdoors in this, big garden centers that, they grow trees and things like that. So it was really beautiful. A challenge, technically. And we were using Wi-Fi for the video. So it was wireless between all the cameras. So there's a lot going on. All right. One last chance for people to enter to win the 1-year BirdDog Cloud subscription. I want to thank you for your time today and being here to answer these questions, especially the timed questions that you have a good answer for.
I'm trying.
All right. Thank you very much. And I will look forward to, doing another show with you. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Thank you. I hope to be back soon.
Okay. So we're wrapping up our show. This is the last few minutes where you can have an opportunity right here to type in bit.ly BirdDog entry or BD entry, capital B, capital D entry, or point your phone at this. I should do it this way. Point your phone at this QR code because, if I go like this, my finger's really big. Point your phone at this little QR code and you can have a chance to win a 1-year BirdDog Cloud subscription, which if you are interested in BirdDog Cloud or doing remote production or connecting things in different places, you may try a trial of something, but production, life, business, sometimes that gets in the way, and that 14 days or that 30 days isn't enough time. And by winning a 1-year BirdDog Cloud subscription, it really gives you time to really test all the different facets of whether this is going to work for you and everything. It's something that you need, in the long run. So, and BirdDog is happy to make this available to whomever might win. And, your email is key in the entry because this can be activated anywhere around the world. You don't even have to wait for shipping. I'm not going to ship you a code or anything like that. Just going to take your email and boom, you are now activated. And to do that, I'm going to bring this out. To do that, I am going to come down here to the contest page. And then I'm going to share the screen. Select window, BirdDog entries. There it is. Allow. And then, so these are the entries. Oh, didn't want to have that in there. So let me come over here. Move that over. So look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 people have entered. Only 8 people. I would expect more people would be interested in winning this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 8 names, and I'm doing this in front of you so that you can see that I'm not hand-picking a person. I'm going to take these 8 names. I'm going to copy them, and then I'm going to go over to the Wheel of Names to win BirdDog Cloud, and I'm going to and I'm going to paste them. There they are. And then I am going to click the center and we are going to see who wins. Looks like it's going to be Pete. Pete Breen. Congratulations. You're going to win a 1-year subscription to BirdDog Cloud. And I'm going to take the information from the entry forms. I'm going to forward it off to BirdDog, and you guys get to take care of that. And again, I thank you all for being here. This is always a great show, talking to people around the world and learning from you the things that are important in terms of live production and NDI production, IP production. This is really cool. If you have a chance to go to NAB, by all means, it's an opportunity to interface directly with the BirdDog team and make your decision on what products work for you in a direct way, a hands-on way that makes sure that you're getting exactly what you need. And if you have a concern or a feature request or a product request, you have their ear as well. Anyway, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you all for being here. Till next time, I'm going to say thanks for watching.